The head of BBC Persia has claimed that the intelligence agencies of Iran have threatened the families of his employees, telling them that if they don't comply, their children may be murdered. He points out that the encounter between the agency and those who work at the media have drastically changed in recent years, adding that in the past the intelligence agency would approach families of the employees in a friendly manner, advising them to all stay away from the media, unless they would be willing to collect information. Now, however, these encounters are becoming threatening. In a statement, the BBC asserted that these threatening approaches to their employees, as well as those from other media sources, are simply unacceptable. Hassan Rouhani's victory in the presidential elections saw many of the people of Tabriz swarming the streets. However, unfortunately, on the afternoon of the 15th of June, Arash Mohammadi, a student activist, was arrested. It has now been reported that he is on hunger strike. On Tuesday the 18th of June, Amnesty International published a statement to Hassan Rouhani, the winner of the 11th presidential elections in Iran, asking him to free all political prisoners, in particular 2 of the opposition leaders who are under house arrest, Mir Hossein Mousavi and Mehdi Haroubi. Independent journalists demanded Hassan Rouhani, the elected president of Iran, to fulfill his promises by releasing imprisoned journalists and bloggers and allowing freedom to distribute information. The International Association of Iranian Journalists wrote a letter to Hassan Rouhani, the newly elected president of Iran, clarifying the boundaries between the former extremists of this association. They asked Mr. Rouhani to prevent the presence of these people in future trade associations.
Everybody for being here. Thank you for inviting us to talk about persecution, and persecution. Life in Iran could be quite different nowadays, when instead of restricting all kinds of rights, violating all kinds of rights and human values, the power brokers of the political elite would foster human rights and respect for diversity. And as we heard before, Iran is the country of diversity. But they are not interested to do so. Iran has so many warm-hearted people, intelligent and creative people, wonderful landscapes, cultural achievements, and a variety of cultures, beliefs, and schools of thought. Life could be different when thoughts about creating a sound and healthy society in Iran would be based on human rights and not fought against by the regime under various excuses and pretexts. Our organization, which is the International Organization to Preserve Human Rights in Iran, highlights human rights violations in Iran. Additionally, we provide the intellectual background to understand how and why the ideology creators of the system think and argue as they do and act as they act, and cause actions from excited people like Basij. We do this because we think it is important to show the atrocity of this ideology towards human values and civilization in general. That may encourage each human being to stand up and voice their concern after understanding the danger for humanity. So it's not important to be Iranian, but it's important to be human. During this gathering, I would like to focus on the situation of the dervishes in Iran, especially the dire situation of the Nematollahi Gonabadi order, headed by Dr. Nur Ali Tabandeh. As most of you know, Sufi dervishes are considered to be the mystics of Islam, meaning that they have rather an esoteric interpretation of Quran and in consequence practice values like tolerance, solidarity, peace, harmony with other people and denominations. Throughout the centuries, they had a deep impact on education and culture of Iran. Let me just label this fact before we precise on the current situation. It was Rumi, Hafiz, Shah Nematullah Vali, Saadi, and many other poets enchanted the hearts of Iranians throughout the centuries and still do today by reaching the hearts and minds even of people in Western countries. Now I will name some dervishes who face situations caused by the regime in Iran, which definitely must be addressed and criticized severely. Then I will bring the details and reasons for these unjust detentions. So we have in Shiraz, Adelabad prison, Saleh Moradi and Kasra Nouri. The situation of Saleh Moradi just changed. He was let out of prison, and finally there was a court sentence against him which was lower than the time he had passed in prison without being put in court. There are some persons in Pelak 100, which is Bandesat in Farsi. I think it is belonging to Adelabad prison. There are persons like Sayyid Ibrahim Bahrami, Muhammad Ali Sadeghi, Muhammad Ali Dehgan, and Mohsen Esmaili, and many others. And in Evin prison we have dervishes who were addressed as being guilty of spreading news about attacks on dervishes in Kabar in September 2011. They are lawyers and journalists. Amir Eslami, Hamid Reza Moradi, Mustafa Daneshju, Amir Eslami, Reza Entesari, Afshin Karampur, Farshid Yadollahi, and Omid Behrouzi. So I will not talk about each one of them. In order to identify patterns of persecution, it is necessary to get into the depth of the matter. We should keep in mind that the regime has very absolutistic strategies, but very flexible tactics. What does that mean? The strategy to purge the society in Iran from each movement that has an alternative worldview is an absolute and fixed decision. To reach to this goal, the regime, the Nizam, applies various methods and tactics according to the answers of the Iranian society or the international community. The example we will give here is the hunger strike of the imprisoned Kasra Nouri, who was in a hunger strike for more than 90 days in Adelabad prison of Shiraz and had started a dry hunger strike. He was forcibly fed by drip infusion. Anyway, the goal of his hunger strike was to achieve that those 7 dervishes I mentioned of Evin prison, who were kept in solitary confinement, were brought back to the general ward. So finally, when Markus Löning, Federal Government Commissioner for Human Rights Policy and Humanitarian Aid at the Federal Foreign Office in Berlin, Germany, released a statement, and Amnesty International started an urgent action for Kasra Nouri. Finally, the regime backed down, so Kasra Nouri's life was saved and the situation of the dervishes improved for a little while. There is concern between the regime officials about the image of the so-called Islamic Republic Iran in the world. If there is enough pressure on certain cases from the international community, the regime sometimes backs down and the process of purge is slowed down, or the tactics and measures of persecution change until the next outcry from the world stops the new tactics. Recently, the representative of Ali Khamenei at the universities, his name is Mozaire Seif, he's the head of a new institution called Muassese Behdasht Ma'anavi, It is the Center for Spiritual Health. Described the necessity of a new strategy for persons who follow one of the groups which are classified under false mysticism. He complained, so Mr. Saif complained about the fact that jails would turn out as the universities, where imprisoned adherents of diverse beliefs convert their co-prisoners to their deviated belief. He alluded, so Mr. Saif alluded, that the minds of these adherents should either be changed before brought to prison, or special prisons for these persons should be built in order not to infect other prisoners with their worldview. So, my conclusion: if the international community is not aware of the illness of thoughts hidden behind the mask of a religious fascist government in Iran, the human rights violations will go on and on and on, and each year we might come together in Geneva for explaining one case after another and worry about which group will be targeted next by the regime. Thank you.
On Tuesday the 13th of June, Isa Khan Hatami, a political activist, was arrested while he was summoned to the Intelligence Ministry Committee and transferred to the Section 350 of the Evin prison. On Saturday the 15th of June, after Hassan Rouhani won the presidential elections of the Islamic Republic of Iran, a group of his supporters took to the streets of the city of Tabriz to celebrate and rejoice. However, security forces attacked and arrested some of these supporters. In the recent days, two political activists, Fatemeh Ziai and Muhammad Agha Maghzi, who is the brother of the political activist Ali Maghzi, were both arrested by the intelligence forces. Dr. Saeed Madani, a political prisoner and civil, national and religious activist, was exiled to the city of Bandar Abbas for 10 years, where he must carry out a sentence of 6 years imprisonment. Reports indicate that the Supreme Court has approved and confirmed the execution of 3 convicted prisoners named Nejat Tahmasabi, Saeed Vakili, and Peyman Jafarpour, all of whom were accused of drug trafficking. On Tuesday the 6th of June, Hassan Sarami, along with his children Hamed Sarami, 33 years of age, and Shahla Sarami, 29 years of age, were all arrested in their house. It has now been 13 days since this incident, but as of yet no information has been revealed as to the conditions of the aforementioned people. Arash Nasirzadeh, who was arrested due to his graffiti work which protested against the unfair presidential elections of 2009, has been recently transferred to Section 350 of Evin prison. On Tuesday, Iran's national football team qualified for the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. Many supporters came out to the streets to celebrate and rejoice in the city of Tabriz. However, security forces arrested more than 70 of them.
Rosita Vazeri, a Baha'is prisoner who is in the Vakil Abad prison in the city of Mashhad, is in need of immediate treatment, which authorities are not allowing. The third branch of the Islamic Revolution Court in Shiraz has announced the sentences of 4 Christians: Mojtaba Said Aladdin Mujtaba Hussain, Mohammad Reza Partui, Vahid Haqqani, and Humayun Shukui. The 4 men are being charged of attending home meetings, promoting Christianity, interacting with Christian organizations abroad, using propaganda against the system, and disrupting national security. They have been identified as first-class threats and have been each sentenced to 3 years and 8 months in prison.
On 14th of June, the website of Hassan Rouhani, one of the candidates of the 11th presidential elections, was out of reach. Ali Ghazali and Fuad Sadeghi, 2 reporters who were working for BuzzTub website, are both in solitary confinement in Section 240 of Evin Prison due to publishing several controversial news stories such as 8 Million Cheat and Babak Zanjani's financial corruption. They both are still under investigation, and as of yet, their situation is undecided. A group called the Iranian Cyber Army, who are supported by the Iranian government, hacked around 13 websites which were against the regime. In continuation of the recent cyber attacks, Iran Briefing website was hacked once again by the Iranian Cyber Army, who have done this to them many times in the past. Mohammad Kourosh Nasiri has been sentenced to 11 years imprisonment in exile to Garnaver Port Prison. He is being charged with inappropriate Facebook activity due to his involvement in the Facebook group called Campaign to Remind Shias of Imam Naghi. Mahsa Allah Seyrjani, the chairman of Monitoring and Inspecting of Islamic Culture and Guidance Office in the city of Qom, announced this June that many publishing houses will be shut down due to books regarding the presidential elections being printed without permission.
In May 2013, Ibrahim Askari, a postgraduate student of Shariat law, science and research at the University of Tehran, was expelled. Despite his frequent follow-ups, he has so far been unsuccessful. Approximately 1 month has passed since the arrest of Ashkan Zahabian, a student activist, and the family is as of yet unsuccessful in getting his medication to him. As a result, his physical condition worsens day by day.
On Friday the 14th of June, Ali Raouf, a labour activist, was arrested in his house. The security officers raided his house, taking his laptop, books and leaflets along with other personal belongings. The officers also threatened his family, claiming that if they tell anyone of Ali's situation and condition, they will never see him again. Last week, Ali Akbar Eivazi, the chairman of the Headquarter of Workers' Union of East Iran, announced that there will be a 9-month salary postponement for the employees of Azmayesh factory. He claims that this producing unit cannot afford to pay the wages of their employees because production has gone down to a minimum in the past year. A pipe and coarse tobacco factory has closed down. The production unit has been stopped due to wear and tear of the machinery and lack of demand in the market for tobacco. Mohammad Reza Najafi Manish, a union member of automotive parts manufacturers, has informed the closure of 137 automotive parts manufacturers and the reduction of 50% of active workforce.
On Wednesday, the 19th of June, more than 50 women and approximately 20 men who were protesting for the freedom of women in the Azadi football stadium were poorly confronted by the police forces.
Last week, during the 11th presidential election of the Islamic Republic of Iran, 10 of the activists in the campaign group of Hassan Rouhani were demanded to attend at the Ministry of Education. On Friday, the 14th of June, Younes Mehdi, the head of the advertising campaign for Hassan Rouhani, was attacked in front of the Agricultural College in the city of Fasar in Fars province. He was attacked by an anonymous group of people who first violently injured him before proceeding to pour acid on his face to cause serious burns and damage. It has been claimed that the authority responsible for the Section 350 of Evin Prison has not paid consideration for the well-being of Dr. Asghar Ghatan. Following the qualification of Iranian football team for 2014 World Cup in Brazil, millions of Iranians all over the country celebrated, but in cities such as Tehran, Hamadan, Kermanshah and Rasht were confronted harshly by security forces. The last few weeks have seen the intelligence services of Iran sending threats via text messages to political activists and ordinary citizens. The chairman of the Association of Thalassemia in Iran has announced that, due to the shortage of imported medicine, patients have been forced to use inadequate medicine made in Iran, causing side effects such as rashes and itchy skin. Babak Roghani, a citizen from Namini in the northwest of Iran, has been summoned to court. He is being charged of acting against national security and propaganda against the Iranian regime.